we flick a switch and the lights just come on. It's one of those simple, reliable things we count on in modern life, right? Until suddenly, it isn't. But what happens when a storm doesn't just knock out the power, but physically shatters the very system that brings it to us? Well, let's get into the incredible story of what it takes to rebuild a power grid from the absolute brink.
Okay, so picture this. It all kicks off on a Sunday, January 25th, 2026. A winter storm starts rolling across Tennessee. But listen, this isn't your average fluffy snow. No, this is ice. A heavy, destructive layer of it coating every single thing. And as those temperatures just plummet, the power grid begins to groan and then buckle under all that incredible weight.
And then the first numbers start coming in, and they are just staggering. In the Nashville metro area alone, the Nashville Electric Service reports that 210,000 customers have been plunged into darkness and cold. I mean, that is an entire city's worth of people, just suddenly without heat, without light.
And this wasn't just a city problem, not by a long shot. A little further out, the Cumberland Electric Membership Corporation, they're facing their own massive crisis. At the storm's peak, they had over 35,000 of their members without power. You can see how the scale of this thing is just becoming truly, truly massive.
Now, I know what you might be thinking. It's a storm, the power goes out, what's the big deal? But an ice storm, well, an ice storm is a completely different animal. And understanding why is the key to really grasping the monumental task that lay ahead for these crews. The general manager of CEMC, Chris Davis, he really nailed it with this quote. He said, "Ice doesn't just knock power out, it breaks things." And that one word, breaks, well, that changes absolutely everything.
Think about it like this, right? A typical storm, maybe some high winds, it might trip a circuit. It's kind of like flipping a breaker in your house. Super annoying, for sure, but usually a pretty quick fix. An ice storm is nothing like that. The sheer crushing weight of all that ice doesn't just flip a switch, it physically shatters the equipment. We're talking catastrophic failure.
So what does that actually look like on the ground? Well, just imagine power lines, thick with ice, just snapping like threads. Entire trees, massive limbs that just can't bear the weight anymore, crashing down and taking those lines with them. In this one storm, at least 76 utility poles were completely broken, snapped in half, and one utility was tracking nearly 1,300 separate points of damage. This isn't a repair job anymore. This is a full-blown reconstruction.
So when you're faced with that level of just total devastation, how do you even begin to fix it? Let's open up the restoration playbook and see how these crews start to bring order back from all that chaos.
And I mean, really, this is the central question for every single crew member on the ground. You've got thousands of customers freezing in the dark, scattered across hundreds of miles of frozen, dangerous territory. Where in the world do you even start?
Well, it turns out there is a strict, methodical, and absolutely life-saving logic to it. It's a four-step process. Step 1, you've got to hit the critical infrastructure: hospitals, water treatment plants, 911 centers. Then you move on to the main lines, the big arteries that serve thousands of people at once. After that, they can move into the neighborhoods. And only then, at the very end, can they address individual homes. It's like a triage system, but for the entire power grid.
And this right here is the crucial takeaway for everyone at home. Because crews are literally rebuilding the grid from the ground up, this is not going to be a quick fix. Officials were really clear about this from the get-go. Prepare for a multi-day restoration. And who are the people making all this happen? An army of nearly 300 line workers. These folks were working grueling 14 to 16-hour shifts in just treacherous conditions, ice still falling, the constant threat of live wires all around them. They are, without a doubt, the frontline heroes of this entire story.
Okay, so that's how they're fixing the grid. But what about you? When the power is out for days and freezing temperatures, your safety is absolutely paramount. So let's run through your essential safety guide.
Let me be crystal clear about this because it could save your life. The number one rule: you have to assume that every single down power line is live and deadly. Stay far, far away. Do not touch it, and don't touch anything it's in contact with. Not a tree branch, not a fence, not even a puddle of water. Report it and let the pros handle it. Seriously.
Now, some of the biggest dangers actually come after the storm has passed. If you're using a generator, it has to be outdoors, far away from any windows to avoid deadly carbon monoxide poisoning. And please, never, ever plug a generator directly into a wall outlet. This can cause something called backfeeding, where it sends electricity back out onto the power lines, and that can kill the line workers who think that line is dead.
So while all these crews are out there working, your job is just to stay safe. Avoid traveling if you can. Those roads are a mess. Use any alternate heat sources you have safely and never, ever leave them unattended. And if it's safe for you to do so, please check on your neighbors, especially the elderly or anyone with medical needs. We're all in this thing together.
So, the next time you flick a switch and the lights come on after a big storm, just take a second to remember it's not magic. It's the result of an incredibly complex system and the hundreds of people who risk their lives to rebuild it. The power grid truly is a modern marvel, and maybe it takes a storm like this to really appreciate what it takes to keep our world lit.